Cynthia, hey, I'm so glad to have you on again today. We haven't talked it's been about a year now, huh?
Yes.
Okay, so anybody that doesn't know Cynthia, this is Cynthia Zhai from Powerful Executive Voice. Um, you've got a crazy list of accomplishments in speaking. You spoke, what, in 5 continents, right?
Yes.
And so tell me about yourself. I know you've had you spoke to audiences of 12,000 and spoke at Singapore, all over different countries. And I was just looking at some of the crazy notes, but yeah, spoke in 5 continents and 18 countries, right?
Yes, that's
That's
right.
awesome. Well, tell me a little
Yeah,
bit
it,
about Powerful Executive
it,
Voice and kind of how you help people and what we're what you do as far as teaching people to speak and become better speakers.
sure. Hi, everyone. I am Cynthia. I help people develop their powerful voice so that they can be heard whenever they speak, wherever they speak, and whoever they speak to. And so we do that to develop two areas. One is that their voice mechanism so that they can sound more powerful. At the same time, there are also a lot of mental blocks that I've realized. So that's the other area that I help people develop so that they can break through that and speak with a powerful voice.
That's awesome. And you were actually one of my first guests year and a half ago or so. One of my first guests on the podcast when I very first started, and just had
I
a really
feel
good
very
conversation
honored
with you.
and privileged.
Thank you so much. Um, so some of the big things, and you've published a couple of books. You just published another book, and I think you said you're writing 2 more right now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
So there were 2 books published, and then I'm writing another 2 at the same time because these 2, they are quite similar in many ways.
you're what we'd call an overachiever, huh? S-
Sometimes.
Um, so Powerful Executive Voice, it's powerfulexecutivevoice.com, right? Your
Yes.
website. Now, tell us the services kind of, do you offer that as I know you speak internationally all over the globe, but
Mhm.
what do you offer as far as, or what tips do you have for somebody that's learning to become a speaker and, if they're just trying to get into that field?
Mm, sure. So besides doing speaking internationally, the other thing I do is to coach people and internationally as well. So I have clients from all over the world and coach them on their powerful voice. For someone who just started or who is thinking about improving their voices, the very first thing I would recommend them to do is, like what you're doing, is to get some device and record their voice. And because a lot of people will tell me that, oh, I think I sound very confident. I think that I sound deep. But when I record it, it's not. So the recorded voice and the voice you heard in your head, they sound different. So, but the recorded voice is how others hear you. So
Yeah.
if you want to know how terrible you sound to others, record yourself and listen back.
Yeah.
So that would be the first advice.
That's a good point. And, everybody says, they hear themselves on a voicemail or they hear a recording of their voice. And folks that aren't doing a lot of speaking often I hear them say, wow, that message doesn't even sound like me. We've got the cell phone stores. People record their voicemail and they think that voicemail doesn't sound anything like them, like it's something with a phone that sounds weird. And I hear the exact same thing. It's just they don't recognize that. And so, but that's a good thing you pointed out. It took me probably 100 recordings, 100 different calls before now when I hear my voice on the computer, or hear something on Amazon TV or whatever, I hear the same things when I talk, the way I'm speaking. But it took
Yes.
forever.
Yeah.
I thought, man, that guy on the TV sounds like an idiot. And it was still me. So, but now it all
Yeah.
sounds the same after enough practice. But,
Yes.
and
Yeah. So that would be the first thing.
if you don't mind, I'd like to have you name drop some of the clients that you've trained for, some of the clients you've worked with, or, the companies. I was just looking
Uh,
at this list of, Procter and Gamble, HBC, Singapore, uh,
yes.
MCN's Google Asia, some
Yes.
crazy huge companies. And
Yeah.
how many
Yes.
how many languages do you speak?
right now, I speak 2.5.
Okay. Which
The two, they are, yes, the two, they are English and Mandarin. And English is the language that I speak internationally whenever I get a speaking engagement. And then the half is what I'm learning is French.
that's awesome, and that's
Yes.
and anybody that hasn't ever spoke or hasn't ever read or seen what Mandarin different Chinese dialects look like, that is a completely different. I mean, it's different letters, different. It's not even the English alphabet. You get a whole
Yeah.
different set of symbols and stuff.
Completely
So
different.
that's not like, like for me, I learned some Spanish and stuff, and the letters are the same. It's a very
Yeah,
similar
that's right.
language, but to speak from Mandarin to English to French is a pretty crazy, pretty broad skill set there.
Yes.
So tips besides just recording yourself. One of the things that I tell people all the time is getting on the Facebook Live or YouTube Live or Periscope through Twitter or whatever. Get on and doing these live conversations is a great thing to improve your speaking. Toastmasters, there's some local speaking groups that Toastmasters
Yes.
is one that I've joined. What else would you recommend for somebody that's looking to become a speaker or they're looking to be able to communicate better? Do you have any tips for folks?
In terms of their voices, if they want to become a better speaker, they need to develop their voices. And the second thing they can do is to improve the way they are breathing. Because by default, most people are breathing in the wrong way. And breath is the power of the voice. So if they
Okay.
want to speak with a more powerful voice, they have to optimize their breath. So that's the second thing.
Okay. Can you give us a little lesson on that? I'm actually going to buy your book after we get done here, buy your recent book, and I'd like to go over that because I definitely could use help on the speaking. So
So for example, I would like to invite everyone to do a deep breathing. So I would assume that everyone is doing the deep breathing. And when you are doing the deep breathing, observe which part of your body is moving. So you were probably doing this one.
through your chest.
So if you're doing this one in deep breathing, that means for the past 21 years, forever 21. So we're not sure even the brand is still around. So if you're doing that one, that means you are in the default wrong way of breathing. And that also means that you have potential to change.
Okay.
So the proper breathing, I just published a video on my YouTube channel and also my Facebook. So demonstrating the proper way of breathing. So the proper way of deep breathing and normal breathing without deep breathing is like this. So you see, if I do proper deep breathing.
Is that using your stomach or?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the stomach area. You probably didn't see much in the upper body. So that's the good thing about proper deep breathing, because if you are on Facebook live streaming, if you are on any live streaming and you feel nervous, you can use the proper deep breathing to manage your nervousness. You see, if I'm doing proper deep breathing, the audience wouldn't know, because the proper deep breathing, the movement is on the stomach area.
That makes sense. I'll have to work on that too. And I've mentioned this, most of my guests know this, but I've had I actually survived malignant brain cancer. So I lost the ability to speak, communicate, couldn't remember 9 months previous in my life. And I've got multiple computers set up here. There's one on the left, one on the right. And I use notes for absolutely everything. But do you have any tips on like that? What I've gone to more, I've got my highlight notes over here on the left where I can kind of look at the stuff that I'm supposed to talk about. And I basically just have a free open conversation. The last time a year ago or so when we did our first conversation, we had I had everything scripted. And so even running a teleprompter, I have to be looking at the teleprompter because as soon as I look away, I forget what we were supposed to be talking about. Do you have any tips on that as far as somebody that's getting up if they have a hard time remembering? Is it easier just to?
Yeah, so some of my clients, they speak in different conferences as well. So they said, I usually write down everything, but sometimes when they're too nervous, they couldn't find where they were. So I always recommend them, if you want to write down something, write down the opening and closing. So the opening and closing, because those are the parts that create stronger impact, and you want to remember the stronger impact parts if you have to write down the notes. And for the body part, I would recommend them to write down the key points. And that's where you also need to learn how to structure your speeches, your presentations better, so that it's easier for you to remember. It's also easier for the audience to remember.
Okay.
So no matter how long, how much time you have for a speech or a presentation, I would always recommend you have 3 points. For example, even for my 2 days workshop, I have 3 points. Now, of course, each point I can expand more. Under each point, I can have more points if I have 2 days.
Okay.
But if you have an hour, or even just 3 hours, 3 points. And for each point, you remember the keyword for each point. You can write down the keywords on the screen. And under each point, it is also important how you expand the point. For example, the first point, let's say voice is important. And there's 3 reasons why they're important. Reason number 1, 2, 3. And under reason number 1, I can have an example, a story.
Okay.
So you have a point, and then you have a story. And the story, I usually give it a name. For example, I have my swimming story. I have my bald uncle story.
Okay.
So under each point, you can write down the story name so that it can help you recall what it is.
Okay, I will start using that right away. I've gone from, in the past, I would write down every question, line for line, the things that I wanted to see or that I wanted to say. And on speeches, I've spoke at different areas and, Caesar's Palace and different things. And it's very awkward to listen to somebody that's reading their speech word for word. And so I've figured out more, start doing the bullet point kind of thing. But I love the idea of having the main points with, the keyword, just say, okay, here's the keyword, or, the topic and the story. And then a story is something you can remember, whatever it is, you remember that because it's happened to you. And so that makes a lot of sense to just say, okay, talk about that story. And if you've got more time, you can extrapolate. And I love that advice.
And also the stories. The stories are those that you always practice. You practice when you're with friends. You say, hey, the other day, something interesting happened to me. And then you just started your story. So in that way, your story kind of are imprinted in your mind.
Yeah. Because
you have been talking to other people about this story over and over again.
Okay. I love that. That's really great advice. I will start using that right away. And then do you have a friend of mine he's a preacher, has a good sized church and stuff. And he says, you tell people what you're going to say, and then you say it, and then you tell them what you just said. So he kind of opens and closes with the same thing. Do you have a similar structure like that, or? As far as like.
You mean the stories?
Yeah, on your story.
Okay. Yes. So we know that a good story is when I recommend my clients, they said, how do I tell good stories? I said, go watch the first season of Hawaii Five-0.
Hawaii Five-0? Okay, I've never seen that.
The first season, because in not only just Hawaii Five-0, but also all the other TV series, you saw that how they were able to grab our attention throughout the entire season. And even when the season ended, we were looking forward to the second season.
Okay.
Because all these great TV series, all these great movies, stories, they understand one thing: to grab and keep the audience's attention.
I got you.
And that key word is suspense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Suspense. So if you want to tell a good story, you have to always think about, okay, how do I make them more interested here? How do I make them say, yes, tell me more? So it starts from the opening. When you're writing your opening, you think about, okay, how do I grab their attention to want them to want to listen to more to what's going to happen?
Okay.
So that's the key word and the key guideline for you to write a story.
I love that. This is, I don't know, I hope our audience is getting some good information from this. A lot of times as I'm talking to folks, I'm interviewing people that are, I've already done what they've done, as far as business, whatever. And so I'm interviewing them, kind of a basic thing, letting them share with the audience. But for me today, if nobody else gets anything out of this, this has been a huge help for me, improving my own journey. And I've got folks a lot that reach out asking, how do I become a speaker? How do I become how to become a motivational speaker, whatever. And,
Yes.
I tell them start reading books.
Like you, Curtis. Yeah, you have a great story as well. You have a remarkable experience with what you have been through. So that's something that will definitely be able to motivate people.
I appreciate that. Yeah, what I was saying on that, though, is I will, if nobody else, I know there's a bunch of people watching, but if nobody else ever saw this, I would be really grateful for the tips you gave me today, because that's going to help out a lot as I'm speaking and things like that. So
Yes.
I hope our audience got some great information here too. And your website, that's powerfulexecutivevoice.com, right? Is that the best
Yes.
way to get a hold of you? Okay. And then your books, I would
Yes.
like to... What's that?
Yeah. Oh, so I would also recommend them to check out my YouTube channel.
Okay.
So they can just go to YouTube and search Cynthia Voice Coach. They should be able to find my channel.
Okay.
We have more than 150 videos there for them to learn and improve.
Okay. I will check those out as well.
Sure.
And then your books are available on Amazon, I've seen.
Yes. Yes.
Is there tell me the name of your two recent books.
So the first book is Influence Through Voice. So that's the book where I lead them step by step how to develop their powerful voice. So if they want to learn more about developing their voices, then I will recommend the first book. And the second book is Unleash Your Voice. So it is a book on public speaking. And so I co-wrote with other women. And so there are different chapters about how to become a public speaker.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great. And for folks, the price of your book compared to what you charge to, go out and speak to an audience of thousands of people, 12,000 people.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize how, when they buy a book, they get the same knowledge imparted to them through this, spending a few dollars on a book, as if they had just spent hundreds of dollars to sit at a conference and watch you teach the same things. So that's, like I said, I'm going to buy your book today and start studying that right now, and I'll also subscribe to your YouTube channel. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Appreciate that invite.
Except I don't have the physical copies with me anymore. If I had, I would give you a copy as a gift.
Well, I'm going to mail you a copy of my recent book here.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll drop that. I'll get your address when we get done and drop a copy to the mail, copy for you in the mail. And but I'm going to buy your books on Kindle here and start studying them. Well, thanks again. I sure appreciate you being on, Cynthia.
No problem.
Really good catching up with you.
Yes, me too.
Cool. Thank you.